And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Cheap Ludes, and I am back with the third tier list of today. Part 4 out of 5, we're going to be talking about the power forward position in NBA 2K22 My Team. Kind of an interesting position. I wouldn't say it's the best, wouldn't say it's the worst. It's just kind of right there, but either way, an important position nonetheless. So, if you guys haven't watched any of the other 3 videos in this 5-part series, you don't need to, but you should. They'll be linked at the end of the video. So, parameters: S tier, unquestionable best cards in the game. These are guys who can kind of do everything. You know what I mean? At this stage in the game's lifespan, 5 tool would be a baseball term, but I guess I could use it here. Would be guys that can do everything and play every play style and kind of fit into majority of the teams and majority of the play styles. This year, there's more play styles than ever. That's a good thing, I suppose, even though this game makes me want to tear my own head off occasionally. A tier, guys just a shade under S tier, and I'll explain exactly why they're there. Maybe they are lacking in like 1 or 2 departments, whatever. I'll talk about it. B tier, middle of the road guys. Most of the community are going to use guys in this tier, whether that be at power forward or at center. A lot of the power forwards can't play either power forward, center, or small forward. So I'll talk about it. C tier, very middle of the road, average cards. A lot of the base set guys are going to be here. D tier, super specialist guys. In the right hands, maybe they're useful, maybe they're not. Just kind of depends. And F tier. Once again, don't have trash tier. I don't think any card is necessarily trash. If I did have a trash tier, I specifically have 1 card in this list that I would put there for sure. But F tier guys basically means, yeah, you should probably upgrade, but I mean, if you like them, whatever. So let's get started with Terry Cummings, F. I just don't know why 2K consistently makes Terry Cummings awful in this game, but they love to do it, and they've done it again. He is not particularly very good. He's okay in the post, and that's about it. Not saying this card is completely useless. Some people will like him, but for the most part, you can definitely do better to upgrade. Charles Oakley. Evo domination Charles Oakley is C tier. I mean, he plays excellent defense. He can shoot the midi a little bit. His jump shot is good enough that you can green some threes occasionally, especially on next gen, but it's not that reliable. He's okay. Danny Manning, B tier. Danny Manning's really solid. If he had a better 3 ball, he would absolutely be A tier. There's no question about it. Like, that's kind of the thing that I would say about Danny Manning. Like, if he had a better 3 ball, he would be like A tier and a couple of badge improvements. But you could say that for a lot of cards. But Danny Manning's relatively good. I would put him in B tier. Mo Lucas and Oakley are not all that different. They're both defensive stoppers. Charles Oakley's just a little bit better on the offensive end. That's why I would put him ahead of Mo Lucas. Mo Lucas has a little bit of a size advantage, though. Either way, I mean, they're not too different. I think C tier is kind of appropriate for those guys. Miles Bridges. Evo domination Miles Bridges is C tier as well. The opposite side of the coin, he's a very good offensive player, not the greatest defensive player. I would use Danny Manning over him for sure. So, Bob Pettit. He is horrendously slow, but he is an excellent shooter, and he is a good rebounder. He can actually hold his own in the post pretty well, too. He's just got like one of the worst lateral quicknesses in this game. I think he's still better than another guy in this list as far as lateral quickness. I think he is. He's better than Jerry Lucas, I believe, but slightly. I think Bob Pettit's got like a 37 lateral quickness, and I think Jerry Lucas is like a 25. Like, it's really bad. Bob Pettit's okay, though. I mean, he plays good defense. I hate his jump shot, though. I just wish they'd bring base 11 back. It's like so frustrating. Brian Cook. C. For a few days, he was probably B tier, but I think there's enough guys now at this point that are a little bit better than Brian Cook, but he is a sniper. He's big enough to get some rebounds. He can move a little bit, but he's not handling the ball at all. C tier, I think, is pretty appropriate for him. Chris Webber. Early game Chris Webber cards are always good. This one's a base set card, but I think he still belongs in C tier, especially if you're running him and Mike Bibby next to each other. He gets significantly better. Offensively, he's just like one of the only guys of his caliber that can really stretch the floor while still providing some sort of interior presence. Chris Webber's solid. I hope. Well, I was going to say I hope, but I know we're going to get like at least a diamond Chris Webber in the near future. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see a new Chris Webber coming like either tomorrow or Friday. Chris Bosh. S tier. No question. Chris Bosh is Definitely ahead of his curve. Usually we don't really get Chris Bosh cards till like the middle of the year or whatever. This year, 2K gave us an early game Chris Bosh, and we really get to see Bosh shine because of it. Chris Bosh cards are always really good. This card is not entirely different than the Pantheon one we got much, much later in 2K21. It's just that we got him significantly earlier, which makes him way better. His jump shot is different, though. He doesn't have the base 22. I wish he did, but at the same time, he's still so good that it doesn't matter. David West. C tier, he can shoot a little bit. You know, he can play defense. He can bang in the paint. Like, he's the worst card in C tier, but C tier. Dunktober Dirk Nowitzki. I would put him in A tier still. He's just like a way better version of what Bob Pettit brings you. Like, he is a little slow. He is a little sluggish. He's a Dunktober card that doesn't really boom that hard, but kind of a slow jump shot, but A tier kind of makes sense for him. He's very well-rounded and very solid. Draymond Green. A. For sure. If this was the second week of the season, he'd probably be S, but Chris Bosh exists and another guy, blah, blah, blah. You know what it is. Draymond's solid, though. He can handle the rock. He's 6'7", so he's a little bit small, but he plays excellent defense. He can shoot. I wish he had better shooting badges, but he's still fine. Is he really worth that big domination grind at this point? Debatable, but he's still relatively good either way. Elton Brand, D. They just never do my man Elton Brand correctly, I swear. Elvin Hayes, F. He's just not that good. And for what he brings you, so many other guys will bring you the same thing for cheaper prices and stuff. That's why I put him where I put him. George Mcginnis. George Mcginnis is actually really good. He usually moves pretty well. He's got Joe Ingles base, which is a pretty easy to time jump shot. He's not the greatest three-point shooter. I'm pretty sure he can't shoot threes at all, but he's overall super solid. And when we get an actual updated George Mcginnis card, probably in Season 3 or Season 4 in some packs no one will open, he'll be relatively good. Hopefully they don't make him a lock-in this year. Like, I would like to actually use him. Giannis. I mean, Giannis is Giannis. I mean, he's basically a better version of like what Mo Lucas brings you. His player build alone keeps him in C tier. It really doesn't matter what's going on with the rest of them. Like, he's just so fast and so big. That's all that really matters. Horace Grant. If you're a post player, he's probably like C tier, but I would put him in D. He's good at defense and post play. And if you're not doing either of those two things, he's completely worthless to you. You'd be better going with like a Giannis or something at that point. James Worthy. B tier. James Worthy is really good. I wish he could shoot slightly better, but I think if he could, he would just be kind of a broken card. He handles the ball well. He defends both perimeter and interior pretty well. He can bang in the post a little bit if you need him to. He attacks the rim at a very high clip. He can shoot the mid-range just fine. I mean, you can green three-pointers with James Worthy. He has like a 76-3. It's not horrendous, but it's just getting his jump shot timing down. If you have his jumper timing down, especially on next gen, though, like, he is nice. Jeff Green. B. Jeff Green is really good. I mean, Jeff Green's always good in 2K. It's not shocking to find out that he might be pretty good. Jermaine O'Neal. O'Neal's pretty good. I'm going to rank him right here in B tier. It depends what you value. If you're someone who values post presence, he's going to be like towards the top of B tier because he is one of the best like post playing power forwards that we have. He's got a good mid range too. He plays good defense. Jermaine O'Neal overall just really solid. Jerry Lucas. Jerry Lucas, is he better than Bob Pettit? I think so, just because he has a much better jump shot, but he's so slow, dude. Like, I don't even know what's going on with this. Why they do my man Jerry like this every year, it will just blow my mind. I'm not saying he needs to have 75 speed, okay? I don't think he does, but just give my man a 40 or something. Why do you insist on giving him like a 25 lateral quickness? Just let him move a little bit. I know Bob Pettit was like a rebounding champ a couple times. I know he can have like a 51 lateral quickness. I think it'll be okay. Dunktober Josh Smith. A, I would say. He's not a good shooter, but everything else he's great at. And for that reason, I would put him in A tier. He's like a better Worthy, basically. Kenyon Martin. I would put Kmart in C tier. He's pretty good. Kmart cards have been pretty solid the last couple of years. Kermit Washington. He's D, but I wanted to include Kermit Washington on this list because if you've played against him in TT offline, the CPU, I don't know what is wrong with Kermit Washington, but Kermit Washington CPU, he will shoot every single time if he's wide open from anywhere on the court. It's completely broken, especially on current gen. On current gen, it's even worse. If you play against Kermit Washington on current gen, just leave him wide open. He'll chuck threes all day. He has like a 38 3, and he'll never make it. It is absolutely hilarious. He also punched out Rudy Tomjanovich. Tomjanovich? Yeah. So hard that he almost died in an NBA Finals game on live TV. That alone keeps you out of F tier. He does have a very good speed with ball and speed, which for someone of his size is very nice. I'm not going to go crazy and say C tier, but D tier would make sense. Starter Kevin Durant. He's still got the Kevin Durant player build. He can still shoot pretty well. He's just lacking a lot of badges, but I would probably put him like C tier, towards the bottom of the pack. Bojan. Look, he's a much better small forward than he is a power forward. He plays like no defense. He's slow and sluggish, but he's got a wet jump shot and great shooting badges. And for that reason, I would put him in C tier. He just is so bad defensively as a power forward that I cannot tell you that he's B tier. It's just not going to happen. Dario Saric. I'm going to put him at the top of C tier. I like Saric a lot at the center position. He's not bad at all. He might make his way to B tier. Nah, I'll keep him at C. Carlos Boucher. D. I don't care if he can shoot mid-ranges. I don't care. I will never rank a Boucher card above D tier. It's just not going to happen on this channel. Derrick Jones Jr. I like Derrick Jones Jr. a lot. He plays good defense. He dunks really hard. He's got a really easy to green jump shot. He splashes from the corners. This card is so good. I kind of regret upgrading mine because I can't use him in like Sapphire or below challenges, but other than that, he's still good. Kevin Garnett. With the dynamic duo, he's probably C tier, somewhere over here. Without it, he's like top of D tier. He's a really good defender, but that's about it. Kevin Love. Kevin Love's actually pretty solid. Like, he's a good rebounder, great three-point shooter, great mid-range shooter. He can't handle the ball, but for those reasons, I would put him in C tier. He's actually really usable. There's not a lot of base series guys that are super usable, but Kevin Durant definitely can be usable, and I think he was slept on pretty hard. Tim Duncan. This one might be divisive, but I actually believe Tim Duncan is an A tier power forward in this game. He is so good on the interior. Like, he provides you with something that none of the other people on this list provide you with, and that is post play. Like, I'm not saying Chris Bosh can't play in the post. I'm not saying Dirk can't play in the post. But Tim Duncan is almost unstoppable in the post, especially with the new update that we have that basically made it so, like, anything under a 50% contested layup will go in 75% of the time. And even then, it's like impossible to contest layups more than that. Tim Duncan will post hook you to absolute death. Like, he is so good. It's actually not fair. Chris Boucher. I love Chris Boucher so much. I play him at center. Personally, doesn't really matter. He is so good. Wet jump shot, wonderful defender, excellent rebounder. He's fast enough to keep up with some of the faster guys and smaller guys. Like, Chris Boucher is such a good starting card. If you don't have this card, I highly recommend playing that first 5 set of domination games just to get Chris Boucher because he's so helpful. Larry Nance Jr. This card is definitely slept on. I don't think he deserves to be in C tier. Yeah, you know what? Larry Nance is good. I'd put him in C tier. Bottom of C tier, but C tier. This card is solid. Lauri Markkanen. I'd put him behind Kevin Love. Really slow jump shot. He can play a little post ball. He's 7 feet tall, so he rebounds a little bit, but that's about all he's bringing you. But Lauri Markkanen, solid. I'm super happy to have him not on the Bulls anymore. I know that sounds like haterade that I'm drinking. It's a little bit. Derek Coleman. I mean, right by David West. I think he's slightly better. He can shoot a little bit better. He's a little bit more big boned, a little stocky, a little thicker. He's solid. I don't really have too much to say about some of these C tier guys. They're just usable enough. Michael Porter Jr. Mr. Anti-Vax himself. B tier. Towards the bottom of, he's like Derrick Jones Jr. level. Great shooter. Great rebounder. He can attack the basket a little bit. He's not the best defender, but he's just got a huge player build. He's basically Giannis with a jump shot. So I would put him B tier. Otis Thorpe is awful. He might actually be the worst card on this list, if I'm being completely honest here. Blake Griffin. So I'm going to do both Blakes right now. I think this Blake Griffin is B tier and this one is A tier. And the reason I think that is because of the Hall of Fame limitless takeoff that this Blake Griffin right here has opposed to this one. It makes a massive difference. It really does. Limitless takeoff, For what Blake Griffin does, having Hoff limitless takeoff is huge because he starts his dunk animations back farther, and that is big, especially on next gen where the defense is tougher. This Blake Griffin is superior for that reason. This Blake Griffin's fine, and I know people are going to tell me there's not that big of a difference, but yes, there is. Josh Smith does not have that, but he's that little bit faster and everything, so it makes it about the same. He has gold limitless takeoff. He still booms. Pascal Siakam. Look, he can't really shoot, but he's kind of like Chris Boucher, where you can green with him in the corners, no problem. But he plays great defense. He runs with the ball really well. You can use him as another ball handler. Siakam's really good this year. Phil Jackson. Not that different than Garnett. Like, he's a really good defender, but that's about it. I would actually put him in C tier because he plays defense and rebounds very, very well. And he can set some effective screens. Plus, he's going to bring you that, like, chilled out mindset that your team probably needs sweating in unlimited. Zach Randolph. Derek Coleman and David West area in C tier. Another big boy who can shoot a little bit. Zach Randolph is super tight. He was on those Jailblazers teams that are just so sick. I have nothing but good things to say about those late 90s, early 2000s Trailblazers teams. They were so tight. Damon Stoudemire, Zach Randolph, Rasheed Wallace, just the squad. Randolph came a little bit later, but I think he was at least on 02, I believe. I don't know. And my boy Scottie Pippen was in there. Larry Bird, S tier, for sure. No question about it. Larry Bird is S tier. He is one of the best cards in the game, if not... No, he's not the best card in the game, but he is one of the best cards in the game. You can play him at power forward or small forward. A lot of people play him at power forward. I totally understand. So, Rory Hachimura. I would put him in B tier. Rory's actually pretty good, especially for a free card. If you were lucky enough to get him, like, you can definitely hold it down at the power forward for sure. Domantas Sabonis starter card. Not many people have this card, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, he's like C tier, like Phil Jackson, Larry Nance area. He's not very good. F. Karl Malone, F. For sure. No explanation needed. F. Sharif Abdul-Rahim is a D. He's really similar to Kermit Washington. He's got like a fast kind of ball handle, but he's not the greatest shooter in the world. He just dunks. That's about it. Doesn't really play defense either. Thaddeus Young, like Phil Jackson, great defender with an easy to green jump shot, just really bad shooting stats and no shooting badges. That's like the only issues with Thad Young. And he's 6'8". So he's not the biggest guy. He looks small out there. Serge Ibaka. I would put Ibaka in A tier as well. Like, he plays lockdown defense. He can shoot really well. He is a better shooter than Draymond. Draymond just has that dribbling over him, so it depends what you value, because they both play very competent defense, but Ibaka's a bit bigger. I personally think Ibaka's better at the center. He's like a better Chris Boucher. That's kind of how I look at him. But A tier would make sense for him, I think. Tom Chambers. This is the first and only time you will ever see Tom Chambers in B tier, but he is good enough to be in B tier. He's better than everyone in C tier right now. You will never see another Tom Chambers card anywhere near B tier for the rest of the year. I promise you will not. He will be down here in C or D tier for the rest of eternity, regardless how many good cards he gets. Tom Gugliotta. If he could shoot, he'd be C tier, but he can't, so he's D. He keeps out of F, though, for having 2 barbed wire tattoos. Udonis Haslem. He's not very good. I would put him in F. So, as always, it's been your boy Cheap Ludes. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Did I rank anyone too high? Did I rank anyone too low? You will always let me know. I know that. The Donovan Mitchell discourse has definitely been brewing in the shooting guard tier list since I put him in B tier. Spoilers. But it's all good. Interaction's interaction. I appreciate it either way. So I'll be dropping the center tier list tomorrow. I'm going to take a break from tier list, and I've done 3 of them. I'm going to do like a prediction market video in a little bit, so definitely check that out. I'll link my small forward tier list at the end of this video. And drop a like, comment down below. Help your boy out. I appreciate you guys. Peace out.